What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode. Thank you for stopping by. So I just want to keep this as short as possible, but I do want to get you guys up to speed with everything that's going on. And yeah, so let's just get right into it. So on the last video, I left off with the car getting base coat, and that's basically it. Right now, as the car sits, it is completely painted. It has its final coat of clear coat. It has like 3 coats of clear coat on the interior and the engine bay, so that's all good to go. I didn't really film any of it, so it did kind of take some time. There was a lot going on, just some family stuff, holidays, and then my dad actually had surgery for a hernia, so that was not cool, and I basically just let him recover, and I ended up spraying like the last 2 coats of clear coat. So I'll go ahead and show you guys how the car stayed, and let me know what you guys think. So honestly, I am super happy with the way everything came out. It's very shiny, so that's really all I wanted. It's Nardo gray. It's actually like good quality paint, which should be a lot more durable than the last time that I sprayed the interior with rattle can paint. So for those of you guys who don't know, I actually did strip out my interior and strip the sound deadening out and all of that stuff way before. And I actually painted the interior white with like a rattle can clear coat, so it's just like not good. And basically what ended up happening was, I live in Arizona, so it's really hot here, and that paint's not really good, so with the heat the paint would stay really tacky, and then with all the dust here, with all the dirt, when the windows would roll down, all that dirt would just stay stuck in the paint, so it just got dirty over time, and it just stayed really nasty. If you guys notice, or if you guys like ever saw it up close, you guys will notice that the interior stayed really bad, which I already knew from the get-go the interior wasn't going to be that great, just because of that first time that I painted it, and it just didn't make it easy, you know. So if I were to give any of you guys advice out there, just make sure you do it right the first time. Paint is all done. I'm done with that. So now it comes time for the fun stuff, which is the actual build, you know, like actually putting stuff together, putting in the new parts, the fun parts, the good stuff, you know. And as you guys saw in the title, we're gonna be dealing with the brake plumbing, brake line tuck, brake booster delete, all that good stuff. So along with the car just being like as bare bones as possible, or as simple as possible, that's kind of how I want to keep the brake system, you know. So it's basically just going to be my brake pedal pressing my master cylinder with no brake booster. From there I'm going to have an adjustable proportioning valve inside the interior that I could adjust on the fly, and yeah, it's just, and then from there it's going to go to the calipers, and yeah, it's very, very straightforward. So with the brake booster delete kit, I went with the Willwood master cylinder. With that, it's a 1 outlet. So with that, you do kind of have to make your own like brake system, because your factory master cylinders usually have a 2 outlet. So during that, I did decide to just convert all my brake plumbing to AN fittings, and that's just to kind of keep everything really simple, just -3 AN all around. So I think I already bored you guys enough, so I'm just gonna go ahead and head over to my parents' house, and let's get to it. Alright guys, so I just got done running a bunch of errands. I've been all around and I got a bunch of like brake fittings, AN fittings, all that stuff. I got a couple pre-made AN braided hoses, and then I got these guys made. So let's go ahead and get right to it. I'll show you guys what I have planned. Alright guys, so I just got to my parents' house here with the car, and basically what I am doing right now is just kind of assessing everything, make sure that my plan is going to work out, make sure that all the fittings that I have, make sure they're all fitting, make sure I have everything, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So I'm just gonna kind of walk you guys through the plan that I have, kind of like what I'm thinking as far as routing all my brake plumbing. Alright, so this is pretty much what I'm working with as far as my brake system. So I have the Wilwood master cylinder, the brake booster delete plate, and I have already gone through and put most of the fittings in place where I want everything to terminate. So I basically plan on the lines going from the master cylinder over here to the bulkhead fitting. So on the other side of that bulkhead fitting, it goes off into a T-fitting. So the hard line is going to come out right, and you can see that I already have a braided AN hose, and that's coming to the adjustable proportioning valve. So I just have that on a hose so I can kind of like have some freedom where I'm going to mount that, just because I haven't really decided on a spot yet. Oh yeah, and you can see right here, so this line goes all the way back, and then boom, back there underneath the steering column. So for the rear lines, it's basically just going to come down to this fitting here, go through that bulkhead fitting right there, and then adapt to these to the factory rear hard lines. So you can see all that in place. And as far as the front lines, you can see right here I have a bulkhead fitting that goes into the passenger front wheel well, and then I have a then I have another bulkhead fitting right there, which goes into the driver front wheel well. Alright, and in the wheel well, it's basically just going to go from this dash 3 AN fitting to another flex hose, that flex hose to the regular like kind of like frame rail adapter, and then from there it's just the stainless steel brake hose. This fits up to the caliper. And this is just, so this is what I got made earlier, and what this is just a dash 3 female end, and then this is going to be a 10 by 1 inverted flare female end. So basically what I'm gonna do is use this brake adapter. This one right here in the middle is a brake adapter that's going from a 10 by 1.0 to a dash 3, and then on the caliper I'm going to use a dash 3 to 10.0 bubble flare adapter. So that's how I'm doing that. So just be aware, if you guys are going to use the RL calipers, the RL caliper uses a bubble flare, not an inverted flare. So you are most likely going to have to get custom lines made, or you're going to have to get some sort of bubble flare to inverted flare adapter fitting. So yeah, I basically have the overall map and the overall plan of where everything's gonna go. First thing in the morning tomorrow, I just need to get here and start bending and flaring some hard lines. Pretty straightforward. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, get everything cleaned up, and I'm gonna be back first thing in the morning tomorrow. As soon as I get here, I'm gonna get cracking on bending and flaring these lines. So I'll walk you through the process of doing one, and from there I just need to get cracking and get this stuff done, because I just really want to drive this car already. So see you guys tomorrow. What's up guys? So it is now Saturday. I just stopped, got some coffee. So right now I'm currently headed to SDHQ, which is like a SDHQ is like a place like right next to my house. It's like an off-road racing place. So basically just think of trophy trucks and Baja 1000, and they have everything that you need. Alright, so I just got done at SDHQ, and they're really cool about it. They did swap out those hoses for the 10-inch ones, so hopefully these will fit a lot better. I'm gonna head over to my parents' house now and start building some brakes. So see you guys there. Alright, so I just pulled up to my parents' house and I'm basically just gonna go ahead and get cracking on this. I've already set up shop over here, so I'm just gonna get the little time lapse going. So what I'm doing to just make this process a whole lot easier is I'm just getting some of this like safety wire or some bendable wire, and I'm actually just kind of using this as a template. Alright, so if you guys can see that right there, basically I've bent this one already and this one's gonna kind of go like so. But yeah, you guys can see that that's kind of, you know, it's easy to bend with your hand, with your finger. You can size it all up, get your measurements and stuff, and then you could just transfer that over directly to your whatever you're using for hardline. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on getting the rest of my little like templates bent out and stuff out of the safety wire, and from there, once I'm ready to actually start bending some lines, I'll get back to you guys then. Alright, so if you guys can see this, I already did work out the line, or how I'm gonna route my line from here to this one. So right now I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do for my clutch line, from my clutch line going into the firewall, because I'm also going to be tucking the clutch line as well. So with this one I did have to make it go to a 90 degree because this kind of comes at a really harsh angle and it'll go straight back to the firewall. So I used a 90 degree fitting, and that's going to be coming this way. And I haven't decided yet, but I think I'm going to basically just route my clutch line to either go right, I think it's going to go right underneath the where the brake line goes into. So I think I'm going to make it go something kind of like out this. It's going to be a 90, it's going to come straight, come under the master cylinder, I think. Yeah, like under this kind of, so I can still get to all these bolts and remove this if I ever need to without having to remove the clutch line. And then I'll have to route it up and then back to this. So the clutch line is going to be a little bit more complicated because I do want to keep it out of the way of this entire plate here and the master cylinder and the line. So just in case I ever work on the brakes by themselves or the brake system, I can work on that without dealing with this. Or if I have to work on this, I could work on this without having to deal with that, if that makes sense. So let's get the time lapse going, and I'm gonna start working this out. So basically the clutch line would be something like this, you know, so out the clutch, master cylinder, it would come around down under the brake booster delete plate, and then terminate around, I think, right underneath the current brake bulkhead fitting. And for the brakes, I'm thinking of just doing this, keeping it really simple, just 190 degree bend. Alright, so before I actually jump right into like bending and flaring the hard lines and stuff, I do kind of want to talk about like the parts I use, the materials, and all of that stuff. So I did do a lot of research, and I mean, realistically, the material that you do want to go with as far as hard lines is stainless steel. Stainless steel is basically like the best all around. It's very strong, very durable, doesn't rust, anything like that. So the stainless steel is really hard to work with, and it ruined all my flaring tools. So I did a lot more research on what are some like good alternatives to the stainless steel. So I mean, out there's a lot that you can get for brake lines. So I mean, there's like steel, you can get nickel steel alloy, you can get nickel copper alloy, copper, there's so many out there. But what I decided to go with was actually nickel copper, so NiCop or nickel copper alloy. So with this, what it allows for is the copper is like really soft, it's easy to work with, it flares really nicely. The nickel side, so it's nickel copper, so that's the copper side. The nickel side just adds strength, and it also allows for rust resistance, you know. So I did decide to go with the NiCop, and I did see some people working with it, and on all the videos and everything that I saw, it's all silver. But when I ordered it, mine came in a copper color, which I don't like, I'm not really a fan of, but I'm just gonna work with it. I'm gonna bend all my lines out of the nickel copper. So that's kind of the plan. I'm not really worried about the nickel copper with strength or with anything like that. I know it's gonna be great. A lot of people have used it. And just so you guys know, a lot of European manufacturers actually use nickel copper brake lines on their factory lines. So, I mean, it's good stuff. Along with that, it is a lot cheaper as well. So that's another thing, you could save some money if you do order a roll of nickel copper hardline as opposed to stainless steel. So that's another plus. So now for the actual exciting part. Let's start building some brake lines. Let's get to it. So before you even get started with like doing this stuff, I mean, the basic tools that you're gonna need, you do want tube bender, you're gonna want tube cutter, and then a flaring tool. Again, if you're doing AN, you're gonna want 37 degrees. If you're doing anything else, that's 45 degrees. See, I don't think it says, yeah, right here. So you can see, if you can see that right there, it says 37 degrees. I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, 37 degree flare. So yeah, so I'm basically gonna get started on working on one of my little templates. So I'm gonna get started with the clutch line. So I'm gonna get started on this, and I'll show you guys basically how to like cut the tube, how I bend it, and I'll show you guys a flare. So yeah, another tool you guys probably might want to look into getting if you guys are gonna do this is a tube straightener. So I mean, working with the NiCop line, it definitely is really easy. So you can see it's like, it's bendable by hand, so that's why this nickel copper is used a lot, just because, you know, it's really easy to work with, a lot easier to work with than stainless steel. For the ends, I will not bend this perfectly right here. What I'm gonna do is just give myself a little bit of room for error, you know, because you could always cut off the ends once you're done. And this one's just basically just a 90-degree bend, any direction. This is your first bend, so it doesn't really matter all too much what angle you're doing it in. Just want to make sure you get the right angle. You want to just bend a little bit over the actual mark, because then it does kind of come back. So yeah, so there's my first bend. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off here. So with the template, you can see that there's just gonna be one more bend, which, I mean, that'll bend right there. So I'm just giving a little bit of excess, but I wanna cut this off and take this bent line, go fit it up on the actual car. And yeah, let's, so whenever cutting a line, I mean, it's really straightforward, but just tighten it up, not so much, don't crush the line, just put some tension on the blade. So it's a little circular blade, and you're basically just gonna turn it until you cut all the way around, basically. And once you cut all the way around, you'll feel it get really loose. So then from there, you just wanna add a little bit more tension and spin it again, and there you go. Cuts off. So once you cut it off, most tools, they will come with a little like deburring. So yeah, there's that. Deburring is really important when it comes time to making your flare. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and fit this up just to kind of see like a little rough guideline, I guess. You kind of get the feel right there. So yeah, you can kind of get the sense for where that's gonna sit, which I am really happy with that actually. And you can see right here in this line where I kept it straight, this is where I'm gonna put my last bend and hopefully terminate it in there. So right now I'm actually just gonna work on this one right here, which is super simple. Yeah, it's just a 90. So yeah, I'll go ahead and just get this one done really quick. Okay, so I got this line roughly cut. It's not perfect yet, so I'm just gonna kind of measure it up. And then before actually flaring it, I'm just gonna check it one more time. That's perfect. Okay, so when you are going to be flaring a hard line with a tube nut, this is how it goes. You wanna make sure you put your tube nut in first, and then you're gonna put this collar in. So with the collar, you'll see that one side's flat, then one side has like basically a flare on it. So you want to make sure that the flared side's actually the side going towards the opening or towards the flare, because that's also going to help out with seating. So boom, just goes like that. And then if you notice, there's that stepped side, so you can kind of see that it sticks out right underneath the tube nut. So yeah, so that's how that goes. So once you have that in place, then we can go ahead and actually get it ready for the flare. But yeah, once you have the spot, then you want to like tighten it up. Should be good. And we're gonna get our actual flaring tool. So this is what actually puts the flare into the hard line. And then with most of these tools, you'll notice that there's gonna be like little grooves in it where it locks into place. So you can see down there, it locks into place like this at an angle. So locks in place, and then you can actually start tightening down. So you just wanna just crank down smoothly. And yeah, when you're flaring this, you don't want to go like crazy and like over tighten the hell out of it, because you'll split the line and that will ruin the line. With this, you just want to kind of like tighten it, go smooth, don't go crazy, and just tighten it until it bottoms out, you know. So right now it's bottomed out. I'm not cranking it much further past that. So yeah, that's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and back it off, check it out, see what the flare looks like. So here we are. So yeah, so then from there, you can see that the actual little collar, that little sleeve, locks in place. And again, that like flared end on it just matches up perfect with the actual flare up here. And that will actually help to seat once you have your tube nut in. So yeah, once you have this tube nut in, there we go. So there's a flare. I'm gonna go ahead and flare this side. So the same thing, just make sure tube nut first and then your sleeve. flare. So let's fit this up now. So as you can see, that line is wanting to get along just nicely, so that's perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and finalize this line, get a flare on this end, and then just figure out where I'm gonna bend this guy. So now that you guys kind of saw the basic process, so that's basically where it's at. I'm gonna go ahead and bend the rest of the hard lines and stuff. I'll get back to you guys once I finish that up. Alright, so I basically have gotten done with all of the lines. So I've ran this line down, the line that goes from here to the left front wheel well bulkhead fitting. So there's that one, and then this is the final line going to the front passenger bulkhead fitting to the wheel well. So there's that. And the reason why I kind of bent this one up a little bit weird is so I can mount this guy on here. So now it's secure. So basically, let me kind of show you guys what I'm working with here. So starting off from the bulkhead fitting, so that splits off into two. So then this braided hose is for the rear brakes, and then this hard line is for the front brakes. So what I was just working on right now is getting this bent. This goes down to a T-fitting, and I have already mounted that up. Well, so for this one, what I'm gonna do is actually run some sort of like washer or spacer in the back of this bolt, since it's very long. And the reason for that is just to give this line a little bit of space, so it can kind of space the lines outward instead of squishing it all the way down. Because once it's squished all the way down, tying all the way against the firewall, then this line rubs up against here, and then this line rubs up against this hose, up against this hose. So I'm planning on this one right here. I'm just gonna space it out, put some sort of washer or spacer, and that makes everything perfect. So there's space right here, there's space underneath the line, and then there's space between the hose and the line. And yeah, so from there, so once it comes off, once it branches off from the front and rear, the front lines come down, then it branches off again. So one goes to the front right passenger or front passenger wheel well, and I do have a tie down right here, and then the other side goes over here, up, and then the steering column is going to be right here, so it will be out of the way of the steering column. And then I have a tie down point right here, so this line is secure as well. And then it goes over here, that goes to the driver front wheel well. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way this came out. I mean, like, it is secure. Like, I can like flick, and none of these are even tightened down yet. Like, I don't even have any nuts on any of these. So nothing's tightened down yet, but you can already see. So I'm super excited. I honestly love the way the interior came out. So from here, as the car sits, the only lines that I still have yet to bend is the line that goes underneath the steering column and connects to the two factory hard lines that go to the rear, and then the clutch line. So yeah, for those of you guys wondering, as far as the adjustable proportioning valve, all that's for is it's just adjusting the amount of brake pressure that's going to the rear, or it's basically just limiting the amount of brake pressure going to the rear. So you can adjust it and basically just adjust your bias, your brake bias on the fly, which I really want, especially since I've thrown in a bunch of different, like, I mean, I have the RL brake calipers, I have rear calipers that were not even meant for this original car. I'm throwing in a new master cylinder size along with no brake booster. I mean, if you guys can find a factory proportioning valve that will be perfect for my car, then go ahead and I mean, comment down below if you guys know of anything, but I haven't been able to find anything, so that's what that's for. I'm gonna give you guys a full walkthrough through the entire brake plumbing, basically, just so you guys can see the whole thing. Just because, yeah, it's been pretty hectic today. But yeah, so I'll start off with the front brakes, and then I'll show you guys the rear brakes after. So starting with the front brakes, it's all going to start off from the master cylinder. It goes into the firewall, and the interior, it's going to go right there down that hard line. One goes to the passenger front wheel well, the other goes to the driver front wheel well. And then from the wheel well, I basically have this stainless steel AN hose, and then that's attaching to the frame rail, and that goes to the wheel. So this will actually go to the caliper right there. So those are the front brakes. For the rear brakes, it's all going to start the same. Obviously, it's going to be master cylinder into the firewall, and on the other side of the firewall, it's going to go to this braided AN hose, and then that goes to the adjustable proportioning valve, and from that valve it's going to go over there to the bulkhead fitting underneath the steering column. Then under the steering column, it goes to that line, and that line adapts to the factory hard lines that go to the rear brakes underneath the car. So there you go, pretty straightforward stuff. The brake system is going to stay very, very straightforward, very simple. So yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the way I'm just building this car. I'm just trying to keep this car very straightforward, very simple, just driver, machine, that's it, you know. So now you guys saw all my brake system, all the plumbing and stuff. That's all ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and pack everything up right now, get out of here, enjoy the rest of my Saturday. I will be back first thing in the morning tomorrow, and I'm gonna come back, tighten every single brake fitting, make sure it's good to go. Once I finish that, I want to get started and get cracking on putting together all of my suspension. So that's the goal. So yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Alright guys, so it is now Sunday. I'm back over here at my parents' house. So the first thing that I want to get done today is take care of all of the lines that are going right underneath that steering column. So I want to make sure that they're tightened up completely. This is going to be the last time that I tighten them up, just because I'm going to be putting the subframe and the suspension back together today. So I just want to make sure that all of that on the bottom is all taken care of, so I just won't have to be dealing with like tight spaces and stuff. So that's the first thing I'm going to take care of, and yeah, let's get to it. So yesterday I already did take care of tightening all these lines. So since I could reach my hand through here, I was able to tighten this bulkhead fitting right here. I was able to tighten this from the hard line, this tube nut right there, this tube nut, that guy, and then these two tube nuts right here. So all of this is tightened down completely, and what I need to take care of right now is the fuel lines. So I am adapting the factory fuel, the factory hard lines that go underneath the car. I'm adapting those to AN fittings. I am using these hard line tube nut adapters. Alright, so the way this works is this just slides in here, and if you look on the inside of this, it kind of has, on the inside, there's going to be kind of like a flared end, like a female flare. So that's just to help the sealing. Then you have this little sleeve. This is like the olive. I think they call it the olive. And basically all that's going to happen with this is when you tighten it up, so when you tighten this end and actually squish it down, that's going to squish, compress, and seal everything. So that's the whole idea of this. So basically you just seat this in place, so make sure it just bottoms out. So you'll feel it bottoms out on this little step on the inside, and from there you just tighten these up. And then once you tighten it up and you squish that olive, that's what should seal everything in place and should secure it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Since it's so close. Yep, my OCD-ness kicked in, and I just wanted to line these threads up.
And yeah, so that's all tightened up. This is feeling super solid. So I just need to do that to this line here. Probably not gonna film it, so you guys can go ahead and see that now. So here it is, fully secured. I'm tugging on this thing and it is not coming out. So yeah, I am happy with that. But as far as all of the lines right here are concerned, I just need to tighten that bolt back up, and all these lines should come back like that. So all of these lines are all secured. Now I could go ahead and actually put back the subframe and put the suspension back together. So alright, so here we are. I got my subframe ready to go. And just as a little bonus, I actually did repaint this thing, so you can see it's looking pretty good, pretty brand new. Except for the U-joint right here, that thing's all beat up. But yeah, subframe's looking really good. I'm gonna go ahead and get this put in place, bolt it up, and I'll start throwing the suspension together. Alright guys, and there you go. Subframe is all bolted up, ready to go. Yeah, control arms are ready to go. So at this point, what I'm going to work on now is getting the like the knuckle assembly, the front suspension, basically just the whole suspension all bolted up, so then I could run the final brake lines. Alright, so now I have the coilover in place, I have the upper control arm, the lower control arm bolted up, the knuckle, all of this, and the tie rod end. I am also going to need the traction bar, but I'm not putting that on until I put the front cross member, so we won't worry about that, but for now I need to throw on the strut fork. And voila, it's all in place just like that. And don't forget the nut down here. Alright guys, this is where I'm at right now. So I have the front suspension, I would say about 80% together. All I'm missing is the front traction bar that goes up and bolts up to the front cross member. I am missing one fitting right here, so I'm just gonna need to get an adapter right here for a bubble flare to an AN male, so then I could attach this brake line there. I just went ahead and bolted the wheel up so you can kind of see I'm just testing my angle kit. No, I'm just kidding. But what I'm doing right now is just testing the clearance of this brake line that I bent back here. So yeah, that brake line right there. Just testing the clearance with it, and so yeah, what I went ahead and did, put the wheel on, then jack the wheel up to simulate weight going on that, and it clears fine, so that's good. And then from there I did also get the e-brake cables ran through. So now that that's all ran through, I was able to drop the rear. So the rear is on its wheels. Next thing I'm gonna go ahead and do, I just need to get some adhesive on the weather stripping or the weather seal, and from there I could get the trunk on. Alright guys, I just went through and I just got all of this weather stripping on, so you can see that looking real good. So I'm gonna go grab the trunk from the backyard and get that bolted up right now. Alright guys, so as you guys can see, making some progress here. So yeah, I'm really happy with how everything is coming out. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up here. I'm gonna get everything cleaned up, get out of here, and first thing next weekend, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the...
What's up guys? So I was going to end the video there just because the original plans were to actually get started on the engine this weekend. But a couple of things that I ordered didn't come through, and on top of that I haven't really finished editing this video yet. So what I decided to do is just take this weekend to just completely finish everything with the brake plumbing and get everything connected to the calipers and all that stuff. So that's what we're gonna work on today. I'm gonna head over to my parents' house and just get started on all of that, or well, finish everything up, I guess we should say.
So this is what it should look like when everything is done. So I finished the driver's side first. So on the passenger side, I'm going to show you guys what I did to get everything ready, or to get the brake lines ready to go to the caliper. First off, you have a hard line going over here. So I just decided to bend a hard line instead of the flex line. So you can see it comes over here. So then this fitting right here, this is just an adapter. So this is basically just adapting inverted flare, which is a 10x1 to a -3 AN fitting. So there's that. Then the brake hose goes down. So if you guys can see that, I made my own little bracket here. I just made that out of zip ties and this little clear hose. So yeah, my dad showed me this little trick, and basically they use this on like trophy trucks and all kinds of stuff for like Baja races and everything. So I think this will be durable enough for me. And then there's one more right here, so it's mounted right there, right here, and then it's also mounted right here with the factory location on the knuckle. And for actually mounting on the caliper, the actual custom hose that I got made is a 90-3 AN, and then I just used an adapter fitting to adapt -3 to a 10x1.0 bubble flare fitting. So everything is ready to go, and this side is already fully tightened down. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get cracking on the passenger side. I'll show you guys that process, and yeah, the brakes should be good to go. So before I get started on actually mounting all of the brake plumbing over here to the caliper, I just want to talk about like my original setup for these calipers, just because I had a lot of people asking like how, or like what I did for the brake lines when I first did the RL caliper swap. So basically the way I did it is I just used the factory like RL caliper hardline, and then what I did is I just mounted this thing to a bracket here on the caliper, and then I just had a custom custom rubber hose. I just had a custom rubber hose made that would just mount back to the frame rail. So it was actually really straightforward, and the only reason why I did that is because this right here is a bubble flare. The RL caliper is a bubble flare fitting, so bubble flare, you can tell it just looks like a bubble, goes rounded. Inverted is inward, inverted. So really simple, but just make sure you pay attention to what the flares actually are. But yeah, this is basically what I use to mount it. Just the factory RL line, and then I got this hose right here custom made, and that's it. But I don't need this anymore, so that's garbage. So now the new hose that I got made, I'm pretty sure I already went over this, but I just took the factory CB7 brake hose over to the shop just so I can get the right length, and then from there I just decided to go with a 90°-3 AN line, or AN fitting, And from there, the other side is just like the regular fitting like this that mounts up to the frame rail and locks in with the C-clip. So along with that, when I got the lines made, I also had them put this bracket in so I could also mount it onto the knuckle right here. And then basically, like I showed you earlier, I'm just gonna make that little bracket right here on the coilover and strut fork, and this brake's gonna be secured. And if you guys want to do this, just know this fitting right here is basically just a bubble flare 10 by 1.0 to a -3 AN fitting, and that's all it is. So this is a bubble flare right here, and the thread pitch is 10 by 1.0. So it's really all you need to know, and that's all you need to be able to adapt AN fitting onto it, and that's it. So making these little brackets or these little tie downs for the brake lines is actually really straightforward. So you're just gonna want some sort of like clear hose like this. I mean, you can get these from all kinds of like hardware stores and stuff. So then basically once you have that, you just want to cut them out into little pieces like this, and basically this is just going to be how far it's going to space it out. So I mean, you could cut this as long or as short as you want, so it's all preference. You're going to start off with like the anchor zip tie, I guess you want to call it. So basically I'm just wrapping this around, and I'm just going to leave a little bit of an air gap so I can actually wrap zip ties into this ring right here. And the next thing, I'm actually going to tie, let me get this out of the way. So I'm actually going to tie one zip tie around this part of the strut fork, just so it won't like go up. I don't think it ever will, but just in case, you know. So zip tie is going to wrap around the first zip tie I wrapped here. So it's going to wrap around there. Okay, and then it has to loop through the hose, through the little hose that we cut. Then from there it's going to wrap around the brake line. Then it's going to wrap back through the hose, then back around the original zip tie, and then you close it up. So basically you just think about it like this. So basically you have a loop here and a loop here. So one is for the brake line, one's for the original zip tie. And it's really that straightforward. So yeah, so I got one of them on there, and yeah, you can see that, boom boom. And I'm just gonna make one over here on this side, and there you go. So I just need to cut off all the little excess, and there it is. And nothing binds, nothing's getting caught up. So yep, I'm super happy with that. So I'm just gonna go through, tighten everything down. Alright, so now that I have all of the brake lines done, I have everything tightened down, brake lines are coming to the calipers and everything. The last thing I need to do is actually test it out and put some brake fluid in and actually bleed the brakes and make sure there's no leaks or anything like that. I had some complications happen right here, so this was actually my fault. I didn't tighten my lug nuts down all the way, and it kind of like sheared some of the threads, that it broke some of the studs off. So yeah, I have some on the way right now, so I am gonna need to replace these. I need to take the hubs off and everything, so I don't want to put the suspension and put everything back together. Alright guys, and here you go. I have these lines in the engine bay fully bent. yeah, I'm honestly really happy with the way these came out. And one other thing that I went ahead and did as well is I actually like polished these lines up. So I actually just got like a little scuff pad, just cut it into a little piece and just basically polished it up a little bit. And yeah, now the line actually looks a little bit more silver, which is what I originally wanted. So here's just a little example. You can kind of see the difference. So this stuff that I'm holding in my hand looks really copper, and that stuff looks a little bit more silver. So in the sun you can still see that like copper color a little bit. In the shade it looks really silver actually, so that looks really good. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way that's looking right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up here. If you guys did enjoy the video, if you guys are enjoying the progress, hit that thumbs up. And if you guys don't want to wait like another 2 weeks until the next video to see the engine, what I'm working with the engine, make sure to follow me on Instagram, because I do keep my Instagram up to date with everything that's going on, like real time. So if you guys want to kind of get a head start on that or get a sneak peek, follow my Instagram. And other than that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Check out the next video where I start throwing my engine together. See you guys in the next one. Later.